So last time we found ourselves still on the trail for our missing sister Mayu, and that led us straight to the very large Kurosawa house. Now before we head inside, there is a hidden item tucked away on the right side of the house over here. And it's another fine addition to our Spirit Orb collection. Hopefully in this update we'll be getting enough points to make a few more upgrades to our camera, but in addition to that hidden item, we do notice that there is a small side door here. But it seems to be locked from the other side. This is more or less just a point of reference for the future. We really have no other choice than to just head straight into the front door.
The flashlight.
Yeah, things get a tad bit creepier as our flashlight goes dead and a storm kicks up outside, but I get a feeling that's going to be the least of our worries. Now outside of that particular vanishing ghost, as we head further down the hallway here, that piece of wood is actually to signal us to a hidden ghost. The problem is that it's a hidden ghost you can only get on New Game Plus. Now if we look up to the second floor, we'll actually see that there is a little opening there. And by taking a quick picture, we find a hidden ghost is actually looking down upon us. Yeah, I think that is actually the first ghost that requires the sense function that you can only get in New Game Plus, but it definitely won't be the last we'll be running across. And yet another mention of this Kusabi. Still have no idea what it might be referring to, but we do have a fork in the road here. Almost immediately we can see that we are pretty limited in where we can go in the Kurosawa house right now. Also be very careful that you don't rush into this room, otherwise you'll scare away the terrified man. But in this first large room in the Kurosawa house, we can already see that there is an item on the ground, but if we investigate the area where we just took a picture of the terrified man, we will find a few hidden items, such as more Type 14 film, and even more herbal medicine. But in all reality, the most important item is this one on the ground over here. This is actually going to be a great addition to the Fatal Frame combat. It's another new addition to our camera. This is called Instant, and though its name isn't very descriptive, this is actually going to be a signal for whenever an enemy's Fatal Frame is present. It not only does that, but it actually allows us to now combo Fatal Frames together. Now, just what does that mean in combat? Well, we'll find out in just a second, but for right now, we should just enjoy the calm.
We must perform the ritual again. Yai will come for me.
Yet again, we see that figure in white, and for some reason or another, Mayu still continues to follow after those crimson butterflies. But it seems that we might not be too far behind our sister. She might be closer than we think. Though that doesn't mean that there won't be any roadblocks. Say hello to a brand new enemy, the Limbo Man. More or less a slight upgrade from the Man in Darkness in regards to difficulty. He has one primary attack, the Bow of Doom. But with our new instant function, as you can tell, we can get a wonderful 3-hit combo to take off quite a bit of his health. And, well, you may notice in the upper portion of the camera, under the viewfinder there, is a small little red light. Now, whenever that red light lights up, that's actually an indication that the fatal frame is popping up. And for each subsequent time, we can just keep clicking away. And we can rack up a pretty nice point bonus. It's really a nice addition to the combat, and it makes it so we don't have to wait for individual shots anymore. We can really just tear through a ghost's health pretty quickly as long as we can catch them in that fatal frame. And in addition to that, as you can probably tell, we got quite a bit of points from just that enemy encounter alone, which means that we can now further upgrade the sensitivity and be even more damaging to these nefarious ghosts. Still, I know Mayu went down that direction, but I am a bit curious what's down this hallway. I get the feeling we're not really wanted in this room. It is a bit strange, though, and these handprints clearly are bloody, but outside of that, it seems that they were driven in with such force that they've actually caused indentations into the wall. Kind of a scary thought to have something push you so hard that you almost explode out. We meet yet another brand new enemy. This is the female counterpart of the Limbo Man, the Limbo Woman. She has probably about half the health of the Limbo Man, but what she lacks in health she makes up for with some pretty nasty tricks, such as teleporting and dance moves. But with our new instant fatal frame ability, we can obviously make pretty short work of her. Also, for our troubles in defeating both the Limbo Man and Limbo Woman, we're rewarded with yet another Spirit Orb. And in addition to that, there is an item hidden away in this hole here. It's going to be our first radio crystal of this particular update, so let's go ahead and give that a listen.
The Kurosawa is coming. I'm sorry. It is our way. We have no choice but to make an outsider a Kurosawa.
Still no idea what that Kusabi thing is. But it also seems like Mayu's charm got something of an update, so let's give that a listen.
I have it back. Ritual for the village. We were born for this purpose. Destiny.
Well, that can't be good. I mean, Mayu seems to think that she's a part of this strange ritual. And I get a feeling this ritual might not have positive repercussions. Seems, though, that we are still a step behind our dear sister. She's no longer in this expansive, sunken fireplace room. Yes, I should at least be happy that we also don't run into that figure in white, whomever that might be. But before we pick up that item, I just want to keep this little storage room over here as a point of reference. Nothing really in here for right now, but we will be revisiting this little room later on. In addition to that, though, as we exit the room, it does give us a nice view of a hidden item. So we'll actually go ahead and pick up this little hidden item first, because it is another sacred water. And then we'll see just what was left behind by Mayu, or that figure in white.
Yai, we promised that we would always be together. Why?
And yet again, there is that name Yai. We got that name first from the young boy locked away in his little prison cell, but... Is it some relation to the girl in white? Yeah, this is just a situation where you need to run. We can't actually hurt that large ghostly figure, and if he touches us, it is instant death. But before you rush out of this room, it is good to know that there is a hidden away item here. And it's a very important piece of Type 90 film. Very, very powerful film, but not the strongest you can get in the game, but, well, the good news is that once we do leave that room, we do leave that large ghostly figure behind, but he will be there on subsequent journeys back. But outside of that ghostly scene, we find ourselves with the gentle pitter-patter of raindrops in this outside garden. In addition to that, around this corner we do find a returning item from Fatal Frame 1. That's right, it's the final healing item of the game, the Stone Mirror. Now this is pretty much a one-up for Mayu. If she happens to lose all of her health, the Stone Mirror will break for her and give her back all of her health. And much like in Fatal Frame 1, we're only ever going to be able to carry one of these at a time, but it's less of an issue in Fatal Frame 2 as there's really only about 4 of them in the entire game. Still, though, it seems that we are right on track to find Mayu. It's good to know she didn't have any troubles with whatever that was in the previous room. Still, though, before we follow her through that door, it's good to go to the end of this walkway as it reveals our first save point of the Kurosawa house. But in addition to that, on New Game Plus with the Sense function, we do find another hidden ghost. This one is up next to this lantern here. This one's a tad bit strange, not actually sure what unrequited might mean at this particular junction in the game, but I'll cover it a bit more in the thread later. Now, even though we don't directly see Mayu, we are a bit limited with our choices of places to go still. Another locked door. And I think in this hallway there's really only one other door to go through. Which leads us into the second floor guest room. And as you can probably assume, there are a few hidden items, such as our first piece of Type 61 film, which is a tad bit better than the Type 14. And if we search the nearby bookcase, we can actually find another hidden piece of the folklorist writing. Now, this goes into the fact that there seem to have been some earthquakes since the folklorist got into the village, and that swarms of crimson butterflies have almost blotted out the sun. Definitely seems like some kind of grim omens, but I guess the folklorists really didn't have any choice to stay in this village or to leave. Also, I just love the architecture of the Kurosawa house. It's a pretty nice change from the dilapidated state that the rest of the village seems to be in. Though that isn't to say there aren't some rooms that could do for a bit of sprucing up. But in this flickering light room, we do find a few hidden items, such as that herbal medicine. And in the far dresser down here, guess what? We find even more herbal medicine. But most importantly of all, some guardian force is on this door here. And by taking a picture, we actually see a location that I specifically pointed out before, since we would be revisiting it yet again.
Everyone's dead. She didn't really want to run. She wanted to stay with her sister. Go ahead. Everyone, die.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea that we just go ahead and head down to that door.
Perform the ritual with Sai alone. Yai, why did you leave?
Yeah, I really can't overstate just how much I really enjoyed the sound work that they put into Fatal Frame 2, especially in the Kurosawa house. I mean, there's the thunder and lightning, the soft pitter-patter of the rain outside, the ghostly whispers everywhere, and just that minimalistic music in the background just goes together so very well here. But as I mentioned before, this large ghostly figure is going to be pretty much a fixture in this room from now on. Really, the only saving grace is that he is tremendously slow, so unless you just completely forget and run down the center of the room, he's not going to be that much of a problem. Yeah, a few more vanishing ghosts will spawn up as you do make your way back to that bloody door. And while that one was a tad bit difficult to capture, the next one is probably one of the earliest dick moves in the game in regards to vanishing ghosts. Now you may notice that I did switch to the Type 90 film, which has, I think, the fastest reload time in the game. And the reason I'm doing that, and positioning myself in just such a direct manner in this hallway, is due to the next ghost. Now initially it seems like there is just the dragger, but no, there are actually two vanishing ghosts here. And as far as I've been able to tell, there's really not a way to capture them both at the same time. So unless you have the Type 90 film, well, you might just have to wait till a New Game Plus to complete your 100% spiritless, because otherwise there doesn't seem to be a way to actually capture them both at the same time, or really fast enough with the Type 14 or Type 61 film. Whatever force was holding that door shut is now letting us in. And even though the room is in quite a disarrayed state, we do find a wonderful new item. This power-up lens, the blast lens, will do additional damage whenever we use it, but more importantly, it will actually do the knockback effect that we would normally only get with the shutter chances. The only drawback is the fact that it will knock ghosts back pretty far, and instead of just costing one power orb, it actually is going to cost two. Still though, it is going to be a lot more useful than the slow lens at this point. The slow lens is only really useful if you are just learning the game. Sadly though, well, we can't power up the blast lens just yet, but I think it won't be too soon before we can actually put a point into it. In addition to that, there is a hidden little cache of herbal medicine here. But something is causing our viewfinder to be set off, and it seems to be this door. But instead of just giving us a picture clue, it actually sets off a pretty nasty enemy encounter here. We have to fight both a Limbo man and a Limbo woman in this very small area. But that is kind of why they gave you the blast lens here. If you put it to use pretty much immediately, you can do a lot of damage very quickly to at least one of the ghosts. Couple that with the fact that if you do combo together the fatal frames, well, you'll actually be getting back that spirit power pretty quickly. The only problem is that in comparison to any of the other enemy encounters we've had so far, the Limbo Man and Limbo Woman actually work pretty dangerously well together. Now, while the Limbo Man doesn't teleport and just moves pretty slowly, the Limbo Woman has no problems teleporting constantly behind you and trying to get you with her limbless arm attack. Really, for the first time player, this can be considered pretty much a mini-boss. Thankfully, though, at this point, I haven't really pointed out, but the reason that I have so much Type 14 film still at this point is mostly due to the fact that whenever you do pick up a power-up lens or a new function for the camera, the game actually does give you an additional 30 pieces of Type 14 film. So you really should never run out of Type 14 film unless you're just being excessively bad at the game. Let's lead him into one more fatal frame. And for our troubles of defeating them, we are rewarded with the key to that second floor room and the ability to leave this extremely bloody room. Honestly, don't want to even have an idea of what went on in here, but we do get another additional reward, which is another radio stone and another spirit orb. So let's go ahead and first listen to that radio stone we got.
The Kusabi. The Kusabi is coming. Help me. The ritual was a failure. Miss Sabe. So this is the repentance. The village will be...
Definitely getting some echoes of Himuro Mansion and its failed ritual here. But since we did get quite a bit of points from that previous battle, we might as well go ahead and power up the blast lens, as we will be using that quite a bit. And by powering up the blast lens, it will do additional damage. Much like if we powered up the slow lens, that would merely increase the duration. And since we did take a little bit of damage there, we might as well use one of the many herbal medicines we've been given. But all healed up, I think I'll just go ahead and skip back up to the second floor.
Did you find Itsuki?
We see a brand new ghostly image. No idea who that might be, but Maybe that item he left behind will shed some light on it.
So, this is all God's village. The ritual that cannot be spoken about. And the place that mustn't be seen. If I take a picture of that place,
So that was actually our first view of the folklorist himself, along with both Yai and Sai. But with this piece of information from the folklorist, oddly enough we find that there were actually two different ceremonies for the forbidden ritual. There was a visible and a hidden one. Also, we find that the ritual was used to close the gates of hell, and if the gates open, there would be something called the repentance, which we heard in one of the stones had apparently happened. Most interestingly enough of all from that particular document, we saw the mention of a name Manakata. Now, for those that watched Fatal Frame 1, that name might seem familiar, but that was actually the name of the folklorist from that game. Now, whether or not there's a bigger connection there, we'll be finding out later, but some of you might already be able to put two and two together. And, not actually sure what to make of this. She's not really attacking, and we can't take a picture of her. I guess we don't need to worry about that.
Mayu! Meow, what happened? Someone was calling me, telling me to come back and perform the ritual again. The ritual? Stay with me forever and ever. Mm-hmm. Of course, we promised. For now, let's get out of here.
And after finally reuniting with Mayu, I think that's a good time to call it a video. Hopefully you'll join me next time as we make our way out of this dreadful house.